Hare Krishna, thank you for giving me this opportunity to do this service. I'm very blessed to be here because of y'all's enthusiasm in hearing Shravanam. I have some service to my Guru Maharaj, so I offer my humble obeisances to all of you. So this verse here, we always start off with, and I've always kind of tore through it. Oh my God, it's Mirandus. Yeah, again, I'm gonna say, okay, blah, 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 blah. But it has some very beautiful part to it that I didn't know until I just recently went over the word for word. So let's go over this in detail. So Om, we always use this as kind of like ringing the doorbell to the divine by saying Om, sets the mood, right? So we know what jnana is. What's jnana? Dharma Shakti.
Knowledge.
Knowledge. So what would jnana be?
Without knowledge.
Without knowledge. No knowledge. So this word timarandasya means you can't see because it's so dark out, it's like pitch black. Right? So like I was just up in the hills, in the mountains, and at nighttime, I had to walk through the cabin and all the lights were out. It was completely pitch black. There's no street lights, nothing. And I simply couldn't see even stuff in front of me. I was almost kind of hallucinating in the darkness thinking, oh, I think I see something, and it wasn't there. So dark out, so black, you can't see from ignorance. So Om Ajnana Timarandasya, totally blinded by ignorance. So then this word, Jnana Jana. So there's a verse in the Brahma Samhita which goes Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena. And Premanjana means a salve that you put on your eyes of love. Prema Jana. Premanjana. So this is Jnananjana, which would mean if Premanjana is a salve of love, what would Jnananjana be?
The salve of knowledge.
A salve of knowledge, right? And then Salakaya means like placed on the eyes. It's a complicated word, but it means to be placed on the eyes. So from ignorance, totally blinded, a salve of knowledge is placed on the eyes, and from it, chakshur, the eyes, unmilitam, open up. So what's interesting is that is this word here, which says that it's dark, like it's so black you can't see, is because the eyes are closed. And because of ignorance. So like if you met somebody and they were like, oh, I'm blind, I can't see, I need help. And you're like, just open your eyes. And they're like, no, I'm blind, I just can't see. And you're like, no, really, it's because your eyes are closed. No, it's not. And then they like go like this with your eyes and you go, oh, my eyes were closed. So the ignorance in this line is because of who? Yeah, us. We've closed our eyes. And then there's a salve of knowledge put on them that makes the eyes open up because of the Guru. And because of the Guru, who has placed on the eyes a salve of knowledge, and they've opened up, we offer our nama, or like that. So now let's say this all together, and it has some good meaning. Let's just say it all together since we can read it. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Not nice? So sweet. Should we? What would you like to do? Would you like to read these, or do you want to just read that first one?
I think, definitely the first one. And for those of you that come to class at the studio with myself or with Ed or at our kirtans, these are the chants that we open with typically. And so we can go through the rest of them, but I just feel out of integrity, I want to just give a little, I don't want, for lack of better words, disclaimer that, the rest of these sort of prayers or offerings or invocations, we could say, are to, teachers who are in this particular lineage of Vaishnavism. And so as I'm saying that, I don't want to discount just because they're a part of a particular tradition. Still being able to honor the teachers who have come before us in all their many forms and all the different lineages and traditions. So if this is something you guys would like to learn, the sentiment of these offerings are really sweet. And so they're nice just for that in itself. But I wanted to put that out there before we move forward.
Okay.
I particularly love these prayers. And I'm not initiated in this lineage. But yet I have adopted these as part of my personal practice because of the sentiment of them. And regardless of being initiated or not initiated, a lot of the teachings that we have today are because of these teachers that they are honoring here, who come way before this particular organization was established, where most of us have learned these invocations from. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so would you guys like to, I know Azrael has asked about these.
Okay.
Deep is interested.
I am. Why don't we just go through them since we're here?
Okay.
You put the disclaimer, we've read it, we've signed it, and now let's just go through it. So let's just read it, and then we'll go through the translation. I won't go through the nitty gritty translation like we just did, but we'll go through it just to understand what each one is. Okay, why these are here, why do we say them?
And the first one we just went over, that is sort of a universal invocation that it's chanted in many traditions. Om Jnana Timirandasya. That is an old, very, very old, from my understanding, from the Rig Veda invocation. So that one is not necessarily to any particular teacher. It is to the idea, the concept, and the experience of the teacher that you just want to give gratitude towards. So, okay, let's go into the rest of them.
It is from, I have this handy book here that tells me where mantras are from. But it's not telling me where that one's from. Oh. I did see this somewhere else, and it is from one of the four Vedas. I don't know which one. Okay. So now we'll just read it together, and I'll go very slow, and you can just follow along with me. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. So traditionally, all schools, Vedic schools, no matter who you are, follow a very specific kind of rule set of respect to the teachers. It doesn't matter who you are. Part of that rule set is that before we do anything spiritual, and reading and studying is considered the highest of the spiritual practices, we offer respects and gratitude to all of those who it came from. And so this is called a Mangala Charan. A charan would be like the feet, and Mangala would be auspiciousness or prayers to, like that. So all schools, all traditions have a set, a Mangala Charan that they say, and many of them are based on the book. Like each book would have a different set of Mangala Charan. Then at the end of it, there's another one called the Vibhuti or something like that. I can't remember what it's called, where the blessings you get from reading the book. So like at the very end of the Bhagavad Gita, here, if you go to, things are being slow, chapter 18, the very end, you have blessings. Here, I declare. So here's the blessings for the Bhagavad Gita. There's no servant in this world more dear to me, nor will there ever be one more dear. I'm sorry, I missed one. For one who explains the supreme secret to the devotees. Those are you. Devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end, he will come back to me. That's nice. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. And I declare that he who studies the sacred conversation of ours worships me by his intelligence. And one who listens with faith and without envy becomes freed from sinful reactions and attains the auspicious planets where the pious dwell. So on one side, all books have this. The Ramayana has it, Mahabharata, there's a beginning, which is a Mangala Charan, and then there's an end, which I think is called a Mangala Stuti or something like that. Prayers, blessings. Okay? So here, we're on the introduction, page 1. So this is to the Guru. This one is to specifically Rupa Goswami, who was a disciple of Chaitanya. Chaitanya was the radical spiritual leader of the Vaishnava mission, which took Vaishnavism out of the hands of the Brahmanas and the temples and put it into the hands of everybody. Means chanting, books, nothing, no caste, no creed, sex, gender, nothing mattered. Who you were depended on your heart. And the main disciple of Chaitanya was Rupa Goswami, who wrote many books on bhakti. One of them, like here, which is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or the book of, let's say, how to practice devotional service. Rupa Goswami also wrote the Nectar of Instruction, and in Sanskrit, it's the Upadeshamrita, which is personal instructions on how a devotee should behave and find a guru and stuff. Very beautiful book, and many other books. And so we offer our respects and to Chaitanya and to Rupa Goswami. Then this one, which I'll read and you can follow along. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. And this is kind of an overall catch-all kind of mantra. Rupa Goswami is here. His brother Sanatan was here. They wrote books. And the rest of these, Raghunath Das, Raghunath Bhatta, Gopal Bhatta, Jiva Goswami, and other Goswamis in this group who wrote many books and established kind of like the philosophy of bhakti coming from Chaitanya with these books. That's basically the kind of the umbrella philosophy that most people understand nowadays. Like when you go to India or even any temples and such, their philosophy of bhakti comes through this group essentially. Madhavendra Puri, Ishwara Puri, Chaitanya, the six Goswamis, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Baladev Vijayabhushana, and then the branches kind of spread out from there. Okay. And then there's some basic, then there's the Nityananda, Advaita Acharya, Gadadhar Srivas, and then Sri Radha Krishna and Lalita and Vishaka. So this is kind of a catch-all mantra. Then we have this beautiful prayer to Krishna. And I can see where this came from. Any thoughts or questions while I look this up really quick?
Was Chaitanya like a avatar?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What was he, a Krishna, like an avatar of Krishna?
Yes. So hold on. Why is this not saying where these things come from? All the verses that I want to know, they don't say. Yeah, so in this tradition, there's many types of manifestations of God. Paramatma in the heart is one of them. The universe is one of them. Brahman, Krishna in every atom is one of them. Vishnu maintains the universe. Shiva destroys the universe. Even Prakriti, the material energy. Durga is a manifestation to some degree, all the way down. Chaitanya is called the Tava avatar. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is an old Sanskrit work, there's a verse that goes, Krishna Varnam, this is a prediction of Chaitanya's appearance in the future. And the Sanskrit is, Krishna Varnam Tusa Krishna, means in the future, Krishna will come, but he won't be blackish. Krishna means blackish, Varna, color, Tusa, not Krishna, blackish. Krishna Varnam Tusa Krishna, Sango Pangastra Parasaram. And he will come with all sorts of weapons, but not the kind that we think that cut like swords and stuff. Krishna Varam Tusa Krishna Sango Pangasta Parasaram Yagnai Sankirtana Prayor. And his mission will be to establish the yagya or the worship of the divine through Sankirtana or collective chanting. Not necessarily always chanting, but also doing studies is considered kirtan. Yajanti hi su medasaha. And he will also come with all of his associates from the spiritual world. This form of Krishna had a mission and is not a form like we know. It's called Tava Avatar, like a hidden form. If you went to Chaitanya and said, oh, you're Krishna, he would go, shh, shh, no, I don't want to hear this. He had a mission. And there's stories of why Krishna came in this form and why it's hidden. And I can explain if you would like to know. So Krishna, in his God in his original form, however you project God to be, if you worship God, he gives you things. Oh God, please give me a nice house, give me a nice family, give me money, give me this and that.
Right.
And this is how most religions are, and this is how most spirituality is. There's some, those who have a very pure, very loving heart, who worship Krishna and they don't want anything in return. They just simply want to give. They want to offer to Krishna with no return. And so Krishna, God, who's very humble, very grateful for all the things that people give to him, approach these people and will give them big wealth. They don't want it. Give them a beautiful body. They don't want it. Give them so many things. They don't want any of it. They simply want that Krishna's happy. And that's called Dharma.
I'm sorry, I was looking at my notes and I missed the question.
What are those people who give to Krishna and they don't want anything in return?
Pure devotees,
Or bhakti yogis, right?
yogis.
So Krishna becomes so grateful, so much full of love, and they don't want anything, that he or she, or however you expect God, manifests love for the bhakti yogis. And this manifestation comes as Chaitanya. And Chaitanya's appeared. So imagine if you had some surgery. Imagine if you had to do a surgery and it was $1 million, Deep or Dharma or whoever's paying attention. And you didn't have the $1 million, but you were going to die otherwise. And I came and I said, here's $1 million. And you said, I won't be able to pay you back. And you said, I don't want you to pay me back. I just want you to be happy. And you take the $1 million and you get the surgery and you live. And you think, and you don't want anything back? Nothing. What would you think of me? You'd think, oh, Jagai's amazing. And everybody, anywhere you go, you'd say, they go, I thought you were going to die. And you said, oh yeah, but Jagai gave me $1 million. It's amazing. It's amazing. Haribol, Haribol. So Krishna has this feeling towards the devotees, those who give, but don't want anything in return. And so his manifestation of bhakti, of his own bhakti, is to that of the devotees. And so Chaitanya comes to give Krishna bhakti to everybody out of love for his own devotees. This is a higher understanding, which is explained and fully explained in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Beautiful, amazing book. So if you were to take the 3 books, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad Gita is like primary school, Bhagavatam is like high school, and Chaitanya Charitamrita is like university. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Dharma, you have questions?
I just also want to touch on the aspect of Chaitanya that is both the embodiment of Krishna and Radha. And Krishna wanting to experience the one thing that he can't experience, which is what it feels like to have love for the creator.
Yeah.
That to be in devotion to the creator, like he cannot, that's the one position he cannot experience. And so he comes amongst, for the other reasons Jagai was saying, but he comes with that simultaneous energy. It's really the embodiment of the divine masculine and the divine feminine in one human expression, for so many reasons, but mostly for our benefit. But I think it's just always interesting to note, like that God wanted to experience what it feels like to love the other, and not just to be loved by all of us.
Yeah. So again, and I've said this 1 trillion times, this tradition, this theology is very different than other theologies of God, because Krishna is very close to us than what we expect. We have let's say, a concept that God is very far away. We're very disassociated, and that if we pray or whatever, we can go to God's place, which is heaven, and see God there kind of roaming around. This theology is very different in that Krishna is very close to us, right in front of our face. Just like walking around in the dark, you can't see anything, but everything is right there. You can smash your face into the wall, not see it. So just because you can't see or understand the appearance of Krishna in this world, or even within our heart, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It means that we are blinded because
Our eyes are closed.
Yes. Our eyes are closed. Yeah.
And also, I love to point out that aspect of Chaitanya's incarnation, because I think that we sometimes get lost in the philosophy of like, we're so small and in all the ongoings of everything. And, we're just little people on this planet. And, that idea of sort of the bum deal that we got as being humans is to remember that even Krishna wants to experience that feeling of what it feels like to feel deep love for your creator, to be in that spirit of devotion and that deep love. He wanted to experience it from that perspective. And I think that it's just important to remember what a gift that is for us to experience it, that how precious it is that even Krishna wanted to experience it himself.
Yeah. I was reminded of a situation where the new Pope, occasionally, without anybody's knowledge, the new Pope puts on regular street clothes, just a pair of jeans and a sweatshirt and a hat, and sneaks out of the back and goes to different places where they feed homeless people. And he stands in line and he feeds homeless people. Nobody knows. Then he goes back and puts on his whole thing and is the Pope. Why would he do that?
To get the real, feeling of what it is to be regular.
Yeah, and just have true
show
compassion.
people how it's done too. I was thinking of this, like I was trying to look for it somewhere too, but I think I read somewhere where, along with what Dharma was saying, the reincarnation or the incarnation as Chaitanya was to also show people and be an example, a role model for people of how to be a devotee, or how to live a life of devotion.
And it's like, I could tell my kids to do yoga and meditation my whole entire life. And most likely they're going to hear it from somebody else that inspires them to do it, that isn't this big figure in their life and in the outer world. They're going to be more likely to be open to it from somebody who's just like them and kind of on their level, as opposed to hearing it from me. So sometimes we need those examples from everyday people, and not just these authority figures that we sometimes tend to just dismiss because of their position.
Yeah, beautiful, very nice. And we also have this concept that God is only God, and that's not part of the tradition. Means that God is God, but not only God. Means God is also a devotee.
Mm-hmm.
God also has compassion and love. God also has humility and kindness, and also wants to do kirtan. Arjuna sometimes calls Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita Yogeshwara, or yogi. He calls him a yogi. Means we're connecting with God, right, as yogis, Krishna is also connecting with us. He's also a yogi. We have bhakti to Krishna. Krishna has bhakti to us. It's not just he sits there and just holds out and you just put everything in his hands and he's just like, whatever. It's a relationship. And so as you advance, as we advance in our bhakti, we'll soon start to recognize that the Aishwarya, the big opulence of God, becomes a secondary thing, or tertiary, or not important to some. And the primary thing becomes a loving relationship. Like, let's say, for example, we all love Dharma, or let's say Ed, we all love Ed. What if, after some years of association with Ed, we find out that Ed secretly has $10 billion in the checking account? Would all of a sudden we be like, oh, Ed's a billionaire, treat Ed in a different way and walk around Ed in a weird way and take his picture and act all strange around him? Now we go, Ed, you're a billionaire, cool. But in our hearts, because of our relationship of love, that would not be primary. So as bhakti develops, Aishwarya, which means opulence, becomes secondary, even tertiary, or to some, a hindrance in their love for Krishna, a hindrance. And when we read the higher levels of the Shastra, we read stories of very simple cowherd girls who have so much love for Krishna that when I'm going to log in on my computer, my signal's spotty on my phone. Okay. When they are in association with Krishna, they only want to see Krishna as a cowherd boy. There's a story where the gopis and Krishna are playing hide and seek, and Krishna hides, and the girls are looking for him. And Krishna, they turn a corner, and there's Krishna standing, brilliant as the sun, and 4 arms as Mahavishnu, as the universal form. And the gopi girls say, have you seen Krishna? And Krishna has such love for them, and they have such love for Krishna. Without the Aishwarya, he can't keep this form. And he has to go back to his regular form, and they catch him. So this godness is there, of course, but it's not primary in the bhakti tradition. For most bhakti yogis, it becomes a hindrance in their love for Krishna, because who cares? What does it matter about all the opulence of God? We want to see Krishna in his beautiful form. We want to have a relationship with Krishna. We feel love for Krishna. Pritivritti, which means love from within the heart of God. Go ahead, Dharma.
It's like loving the being for who they are and not the role they play.
Exactly. I just wanted to share one verse, and then we can go back to that. There's 4 main verses of the Bhagavad Gita called the Chatur Sloka, and they're 10th canto, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, so you can the core verses, the 4 core verses that the whole Bhagavad Gita is summed up on are these 4: 10, 8, 10, 9, 10, 10, and 11. And a little trick you can remember is 10, 8 writes out 108, right? So let's just read those first 10, these 4, and you tell me what they're based on. Okay, if this represents the whole Bhagavad Gita, and the whole Bhagavad Gita represents all the Vedic literature distilled down into one book. And these 4 verses is the one book. Let's read the 4 verses. You tell me what you think. Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Okay, there's the God part, right? Everything emanates from me. Okay, the wise who perfectly know this engage in my bhakti and worship me with all their hearts. So you understand Krishna's God, and now we love Krishna with all of our hearts. Cool. So now let's go to the next one. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. So they're loving Krishna with all their hearts. And now Krishna says, those who are loving me with all their hearts, thoughts of them are within me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss in always enlightening one another and conversing about me. This verse is Tushanti cha ramanti cha. They derive happiness, joy, like the word Rama. We say Hare Rama. Rama means spiritual pleasure. And Tushanti means that they have pleasing. And what is it that they're doing? Katayanta nitya. Always talking about me. Always talking about me. And from that talking, they're deriving happiness and joy. And from that talk, those people are in me, my heart. Then the next verse is Tesham Satatam Yuktanam Bhajatam, worship, Priti, with love, Purvakam. To those who are constantly devoted and worshiping me with love, I give them the understanding by which they can come to me. So now, all the Aishwarya is gone. It was just one little line in the first verse. Now the devotees are speaking about Krishna, talking about Krishna, worshiping Krishna with bhakti, with priti, with love. And from that love, Krishna has them within his heart. And whatever they need, he's enlightening them through their hearts so that they can come closer to Krishna. Doesn't say anything about studying the Vedas, being intelligent, doing yagyas, being a brahmana, all this stuff. Simply having love with Krishna creates this circle, this cycle. Talking about Krishna encourages Krishna. Krishna enlightens the person. That brings them closer. They speak more about Krishna. It closer, closer, closer. And then the last verse is, in these 4, to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with a shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So these 4 verses are based on love, based on communication, talking, kata, hearing and associating with each other. Very little of it is Aishwarya, or the God part of it. Does that make sense? If it was all about God, each one of them would be, I am the creator of the universe. I do this and that. Bow down before me. I'm the Lord of all things. But that's a little bit of that. Now, why am I going on and on and on about this? Chaitanya is Krishna, who has manifested in a way that it's all about love, all to the degree that he himself doesn't want anybody to know that he's Krishna. He just simply wants to engage in kirtan, kata, association with devotees, love with the devotees, spreading Krishna consciousness so that here we are today hearing it. Does that make sense?
It makes that love, that word prema, right? Like that specific kind of love that's really pure-hearted love.
Yeah.
That sometimes it's hard to tap into or feel or express when there are other reasons we may be attracted to something.
Yeah.
We're attracted because of it's that person or that thing's position, its status, right? Or we're attracted because of the money, or or whatever, the looks, like they're, and it's not that we should just completely discount that those are parts of our human experience, that we have likes and dislikes and tastes and things that are part of our karmas and our samskaras. But ultimately, we want to get down to the root of this thing called unconditional love. And so it's like Krishna's, found a way to maintain a position where we can love him unconditionally, because he's not expressing all this opulence, and he wants to be in a form where we forget about the opulence, so that we love him for the sake of loving him, for the sake of just experiencing that pure love. And so, I think it helps us to understand this really personal and informal aspect of God that is sometimes really hard for us to understand in a Western Judeo-Christian culture, and where we are taught that we should fear God and we should respect God and we should bow down to the authority of God. And so it's like a forced sort of, we just should do it, instead of it coming from the heart, which is really what Krishna wants from us, is just from the heart, not because we have to, not because we're attracted to the opulence, but just simply because we want to shower him with our love, and in return he showers us with his love, and it just creates this amazing cycle of reciprocity.
Yeah,
It
just
has
like
a pureness to it.
if you're a parent, you can understand this, or you can analyze it yourself if you're not. But for example, I have children, like my eldest teenage son, he's 15. Sometimes he's a jerk, like legit. That doesn't change me as his father supporting him and paying for his room and his food and all these things. This happens automatically. That's my job. And if he was like, well, I love you, Dad, because you give me food and you give me a room, that's very superficial. I want to be friends with my son, and I want to have a relationship with him, and I want him to like me for who I am. All that other stuff will happen, whether you're a jerk or not. That's just what it is. I'm your dad. That's my job. But you as a person, like sometimes he'll call me and ask me for advice on this and that. That's what matters to me, that we talk and I have a relationship, a loving relationship with him. If he says, Dad, I love you, thank you, you're awesome, that means something to me. Not, thanks for giving me stuff. That's why I love you, Dad, because of stuff. So now times that by an unlimited number, and now you have the absolute personality who all things happen to good people and bad people. They are all taken care of. Their heart beats, their mind works, everything works. But outside of that, God off the clock, not 9 to 5 God, but God as the person has love, compassion, gratitude, and humility, and wishes to engage with those who love him as is, without worrying about all these other things. And that's a very complicated concept if we have attachments and concern with the material life. Once we can get rid of our attachments to this material world and develop this relationship with God, then it makes sense. But if it's like, oh, get rid of God, then what about my car? And what about all these things that I'm attached to? Then God is the person who gives.
I think it's important to note, that was such a great analogy too. Just like children, we have all been children. We all have to go through our physical maturation. Like we have to go through the process of maturing and developing different parts of our brain so we can learn to make better decisions. Like that happens. We have to go through that. We can't skip those parts. Same is true for our spiritual journey. We have to go through our spiritual maturation. And so many of us start off on the spiritual journey what we might call superficial. You know, like that child with the parent who was like, well, when you give me things, I really love you. And when you deny me things, now I'm mad at you. And there's a lot of conditions. And so I just, you know, for those of us who are still on our learning curve and our spiritual maturation, myself included, you don't be so hard on yourself and think that you're such a horrible spiritual person. You have to go through your learning curve. And even though I want my children to love me just out of the goodness of their heart, you know, there is also the reality of like the way I interact with them impacts how they feel. And we don't want to just bypass the level of superficiality in the sense that we just shouldn't be doing it because it's wrong. It's a part of the journey that we have to move through. So we bring attention to the superficiality of things so that we can put that salve of knowledge on our eyes and go, oh yeah, that is kind of superficial. That's okay. That was a stepping stone. How can I go deeper? How can I go deeper?
Yeah, very nice. So I was going to go over some of these verses today, but this one is kind of relevant. And so you can kind of start to tie everything together, small little bits. Like, how is it that the guru, that God is this person that wants to love us and we want to love him, this loving relation? How is that related to God? Like, God seems, it doesn't work right. And so that's why there is a path, like a direction that this whole thing goes to, where the beginning part of it is giving up material attachments. How do those connect us at this end result? And that is because these material attachments, this like obsession over material life, distracts us from this beautiful relationship with God, because we develop the wrong mentality of who we are and who God is. So for example, like this verse, which we were going to get to today, which we might later. Bogaishwarya prashaktanam taya hapritachetasam vyavasatmika buddhir. This is something Krishna talks about a lot in the Bhagavad Gita, this vyavasatmika buddhir. Samado, steady, navijite, not steady. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme does not take place. So, what does this mean, this resolute determination for devotional service? Essentially, it means having this loving relationship with God, which is not based on acquiring material things, like I'm going to pray to God for stuff. And that's because that attachment creates this kind of like material relationship. For example, if you, let's say you go to your parents, they have a lot of money, and you want to, every time you turn to them, you're asking them for stuff. My dad's a billionaire. So every time I go and see him, I say, hey, Dad, can I have a little money? Hey, Dad, can I get a new car? Hey, Dad, hey, Dad, can you pay for my ski trip? Hey, Dad, can you pay off my credit cards? How does that affect your loving relationship with them? It wears on it, because they think you're only there for the money, right? So if you have a relationship with God, which is based on material things, because you're attached to these material things, it distracts from that loving relationship. So the yogis say, first step is try to give up these material attachments, and that helps us make a loving connection with God. Do we see this pathway? Does that make sense? And then once these attachments are gone and we have this loving relationship, then we can really understand more and deeper who God is without this Aishwarya, the opulence, the attachment, asking for stuff, wealth, this thing, that thing, all these desires coming in. We have vyavasatmika buddh here, a single pointed vision, a single path. That is, understand God, love, have this relationship. That's it. Cool. What's the, so, okay, little test. Someone explain to me, what is vyavasatmika buddh here? Don't just read the translation, explain what that means.
I've given enough answers.
Ashriyal.
It's someone else's turn today.
Ashriyal.
So I think fixed in determination would mean like expecting a specific result, or being, expecting a specific result. So like seeking in order for something materialistic. So like you're determined to see like a fixed result.
That's true.
Kind of thing.
And in this case, buddhi means a fixed result in devotional service. You see, so what you're saying is true, but vyavasatmika buddhi means a fixed determination in devotional service to the Lord. Means all these material things that we're hungering for, we move them to the side and we just focus on our devotional service. Let everything else happen on its own. Does that make sense? If not, say no, it doesn't.
What you're saying does make sense, but I found that when I'm reading the individual translations, it makes a lot less sense.
Yeah. So let's look at this verse. It's an important verse. Bhoga and Aishwarya means opulence and enjoyment. Prashaktanam, attachment. So this first sentence means what?
For those who are attached to material enjoyment and opulence.
Yes.
It's kind of like Spanish, where things are.
It's all switched around because the words
Okay.
don't need to be in order. So they like to put the drama at the end.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yes. This is not English. You can move these words in any direction. I can say, Prashaktanam Bhogaishwarya Samado na Vijite Buddhi Vyavasatmika Tayaha Prit Chetasam. And the verse is exactly the same. It's the way Sanskrit is written. Every ending has reference to the word that it means. So Bhogashwarya Prashaktanam means one who's attached to Aishwarya and sense enjoyment. So now let's just stop and think of that person. Take one person who's not attached to sense enjoyment and opulence, and one person who is, and turn both of them to God and say, make your prayers, let's analyze them. The person who has no attachment to God, to opulence and sense gratification, let's think about what kind of prayers they would say. What would they say? What would their thoughts be? What about the person who's full of attachments for sense gratification and opulence? What would their thoughts and prayers be? Obviously, this one is saying, praise be God, thank you for all the things you've given me, and I hope that it keeps coming. And this one's prayers would be more like, I just want to know more about you. I want to give you these things that I have. I've grown these fruits in my garden. Here's some flowers. I wish you to have them. I want to have a relationship with God. I want to understand. Now, if you were God, which of those two would you be more attracted to? You're attracted to both because you're even. You're even, but this one moves your heart. right? This one, sure, you can have stuff, but I know that it's motivated. This one is not motivated. So
There's
go
a
ahead.
really great reference to this concept in The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And he actually kind of lays out this story, like God is visiting two different people, and God's like, hey, how's it going down there? And the one person is like, oh my God, it sucks. There's this and there's that, and the world is horrible. And they're just complaining about everything. And God is like, oh, okay, all right. Thanks for letting me know. And then he goes and visits somebody else, and this person gets the same question, how are things going? And that person is like, oh, life is amazing. It's beautiful. There's so many wonderful things going on. And so this book is talking about our mindset and the way our mind is patterned, but he's also connecting it to being connected to this source energy. And so that source energy is neutral to both, meaning it doesn't take sides. It doesn't favor one over the other. But in this scenario, which person would you like to hang out with? The one that is complaining all the time, or the one that is grateful all the time? And so it's, again, I think it's sometimes a hard concept to understand that Krishna is neutral. But when we go out of our way to be intentional with our gratitude and our positivity, that there is a different response that we get from source, from creator. Same with children. I love both of my children equally. I love them so much. I would jump through hoops for both of them. But I have one son who goes out of his way to say really nice and sweet things to me, and like do little things and give me hugs more often throughout the day, and just be really attentive to me in a way that the other child isn't. It doesn't mean that I love him more than the other, but it does create a different quality to the love that we reciprocate.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, like as Dharma is saying, beautiful, perfect example. If we go to the ocean, just what she's saying, if you go to the ocean, you take a drop, you put it in your hand, the ocean and the drop qualitatively are the same. This is just an ocean, but it's this big. You are this big of God, this big of God. So if it moves you, it moves God. If you have the feeling, God has that feeling. And so if you are motivated by love, so is God. And if you're respected and you have gratitude, so does God. So the bhakti path, as we learn, is about love. The word bhakti means love. And so, as this verse is saying, those who are attached to opulence and materialism, the form of God that's like, oh God, with all the clouds and lightning and sketchy, wow, that's the God of opulence. This form of God is not so much appreciated on the bhakti path. It's there, go like this, Haribol, but it's not the primary. The primary is the God of love without the opulence. And so when you see Krishna, a beautiful form of Krishna, no opulence, simple cowherd boy, playing a flute. The flute is for the devotees. Little peacock feather in his hair, simple. And that's the heart of the devotees, want that form of God. They see that and they say, that's beautiful, that's amazing. That's my understanding of God. And that comes about through bhakti, through love. And so this verse is quite telling because it's saying, in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, all these things, the resolute determination for devotion, or we can say in other words, the focus, the connection of God through love does not take place. And you think, why are they being punished? No, they're distracted by opulence. That's all.
To continue on with this parental and child analogy,
Yeah.
you know, a parent, there's a certain role of a parent that has to play these roles and provide and do things. And I think that we could probably all relate to this, that as children being raised by our parents, we often wish that we could just connect with the parent that is behind the ruler of the house. That parent that is like enforcing the rules. Like, I just want my parent to love me. I just want my parent to say,
Mhm.
like, we want to experience that unconditional love that is behind the formality that is required sometimes for the structure of this world, and how the child engages with that parent is what's going to get them to access that loving part. Not that it's only required on the child to act a certain way, but the way in which we engage in something is indicative of the response that we're going to get back from it. And so, you know, there's this aspect of God that is behind the creator and behind the sustainer and behind the destroyer, that we just want to know, like, what's behind that. Just like all of us want to, like, connect with the parent that is behind the parent, the person that is behind the parent. Basically, there's a person there. We want to connect in a loving way with that person behind the parent.
Yeah, exactly. Like as we've said many times in the past, like for example, when Barack Obama was in the White House, he was the president. He directed the killing of
Osama bin Laden.
Osama bin Laden. Gnarly. After that, he went home to his room with his two daughters, who jumped on his back and kicked him and probably, you know, wanted to play games and called him daddy.
Read a nighttime story.
Read a nighttime story. So there's the president on clock and then the president off clock. And the Bhakti yogis want to have that relationship with the president, Krishna, off clock. Does that make sense? And so just to review this verse again, this Tesham, to them. So this is especially for Eshriel who wants to understand this. Tesham, unto them. Satatam yuktam. Satatam means always. Yuktam, like this word yoga or huge, means to connect. To them who are always connected. They're reading, they're chanting, they're doing thoughts, their prayers, they're talking to their friends, they're going to satsang, they're doing Bhagavad Gita study, they're always engaged in some activity. Bhajan, like we know, this means worship, like a bhajan. Sometimes they call this kirtan bhajan. Priti, this means love. Purvakam means a deep love, like a joyful love. So this first verse, those who are always engaged in worship is not really a correct word, more or less like activity with love and happy and joy, joyful love. So those who are always engaged in with me, like worshiping, kirtan and reading and studying and japa and talking and doing things with a loving ecstasy, like they're really enjoying their spirituality. They're fully engaged in it. Didami, I give them. Buddhi yogam, the connection with their intelligence by which mam upayantite, they can connect with me, they can come to me. Well, that's crazy. What about all the other stuff? Doing yagyas and austerities and studying all the Vedas and learning the Sanskrit and learning all the mantras and getting initiated and living in the Himalayas and all that stuff. Doesn't that give you connection? Well, Krishna's saying those who spend a lot of time thinking about me and with love and ecstasy, and then I give them the understanding. Bypasses all that stuff. Why? Why? That's unfair. Because Krishna is about love. That's all. Doesn't care about the other stuff. And those who love Krishna, Krishna loves them back. And that becomes that relationship. And that's the whole entire definition of bhakti, which means love, yoga, connection, or a relationship. Does that make sense? What do you think, Ed, Dharma, Max, Sophia, Rebecca?
I think that well, a couple these last two verses remind me of, or it came to mind when Krishna asked, before they're about to go to war, he asked Arjuna and Duryodhana what they wanted, right? Do you want the army or do you want me? You know, of course,
Yeah.
Duryodhana chose the army and all the weapons and everything and all the warriors and
Yeah.
And Arjuna chose Krishna. And so it's like you could do all this stuff, all like you said, the yagyas, the material stuff, the activities stuff. You could do that, and still, like the verse related to before, it would just be doing that out of a sake of, fulfilling the desire to feel important or to feel spiritual or to look spiritual or act spiritual. But that's still a self-serving desire, versus, you can't really disguise or hide or what you really love and what you truly love, your true inner intentions. That is like, I was thinking the other day about, like, if I have a desire to serve, still my desire, I have a desire to serve. It's still a desire that is not necessarily completely unconditional and ego free, so to speak. And I think that that's what this reminds me of. It's like when you just have a pure, genuine love for Krishna, that is almost like it's intangible. I'm even having a hard time just explaining it, because it just happen. It's something that is energetically vibrating within, and we could dress it up on the outside and make it look like all kinds of service and activities, but the truth is really that vibration. And since Krishna is the only one in there with you, sitting in there, right? I think one of the verses said that, like he knows at what point you're just like, you can't hide any intention from that.
That's beautiful.
It's really beautifully said. I shared a meme on Instagram yesterday that said, serve from love and not for love.
Mm.
And I think just on what you're speaking about, Ed, with the desire, like it still is a desire, but what's motivating that desire is like, I just desire to express love. I want to serve and express my love, as opposed to I want to serve so that I can get love.
Mm-hmm.
That one just stuck with me, right? Serve from love and not for love.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Comments?
Max, what's your purport?
I think this is a really sweet verse. I know that Krishna outlines different ways for different people to reach some sort of self-realization, but this is a really nice one. The topic of conversation we're on now might make y'all feel a bit awkward for a moment, but I was thinking before the class today just how much I look to y'all to embody this idea of leadership. Like, this is, to me, a true leader is a person that, they're there to serve, not necessarily to put themselves on a pedestal. And so I want to thank y'all for that, for your association and the ability to learn that from y'all, from these teachings.
I agree with Max. Thank you.
In the verse that we were just in, chapter 2, I can't remember which one it was, but I know that that verse and then this next verse, 10, 11, Krishna says again, I dwelling in the heart. So he in the previous verse that we were talking about, he's saying, I dwelling in the hearts provide the understanding or something like that. And then the next verse, I think it says,
I dwelling in their hearts.
Dwelling in their hearts, destroy the shining lamp of knowledge and show them special mercy. So I just thought that was, those two were pretty, that connection there to all of this, getting into the heart, into what is the real authentic truth about anything and everything,
And you brought this up, which is a pretty amazing little point here, is that Krishna doesn't just say, I'm in their heart. He really, really makes it super clear with this statement by saying, Atma Bhava Sto. He uses a lot of different words to reference that he's in the heart. But this is very clear that he is situated, sto, in the bhava, which means like the state, within your heart. Like he's just really making it clear that I'm situated in that heart. And because of special mercy, because of this, anukam artam, special mercy means love. Because of love for them, he destroys ignorance. Deepena means love, deep left, but his name actually means a lamp, though he spells it D-E-E-P. Here it's a deepena, but it means a little lamp, a glowing lamp of knowledge within the heart. Jnana, knowledge. Deepena, a little lamp. Bhavasta, Basvata means a glowing lamp. So Krishna's in the heart and he turns on a lamp. Why? What's the point of that?
So we're not bewildered and having existential crises from our bewilderment.
So we can see clearly out of love, he recognizes that the need of this knowledge. Now, again, when we say knowledge in this tradition, jnana means something a little bit different. It's not just knowledge, like we say knowledge, like I read a lot of books or I know a lot. A little bit different than that. It actually means realization. It doesn't mean only, it does mean knowledge, like you've learned a lot, but it means realization or revelation.
It's knowledge that comes from knowing.
Yes.
It's knowledge that is knowing, like you've embodied the knowing. And you haven't just read the book and, oh, I know that I read the book, but you haven't embodied the actual knowing. You may have an understanding due to the knowledge you have acquired, the book knowledge, but jnana is the knowing that comes from applying that book knowledge directly into your own life, so you have direct experience with it.
Yeah, so what you're saying is, I was thinking of this verse actually, which is kind of intriguing. This verse goes, Bahunam, out of Bahu means great, many, 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 many. Bahu, Janman Ante, at the end of many, many lifetimes. So imagine lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. At the last one, at the end of it, Jnanavan. This means somebody who has a forest of knowledge, Avana means a forest, and jnana means knowledge. But wait a second, put on the brakes. How could in this lifetime you have a forest of knowledge from many lifetimes? Does that mean the knowledge goes through into this birth, means you're born and you wake up and you know the Vedas? Like Ashriya, like your little baby, like with the first words that comes out of their mouth is all the Vedic literature? Then what does it mean to have a forest of knowledge? Because jnana doesn't mean particularly like book smart. It means revelation. And so lifetimes of knowledge means lifetimes of understanding. And we have this concept of the old soul, right? That's what it means. Like an old soul, someone who is born and they're like wise from birth because of all these experiences from lifetime after lifetime. And that person says, is mum prapajante. They, from birth, from youth, look for God, surrender to God, and they say, Vasudeva Sarvam, God is everything. That person, Samahatma, is Sudurlabha, very, very rare. And Krishna says, of thousands of people, one will look for God, and out of thousands of those, one will understand God. So with that being said, jnana doesn't just mean book knowledge, but it means revelation. So when Krishna says in this verse, one of these Chakchur Shloka, one of the 4 verses starting with 1008, like 108, here, when Krishna says, I showing just in their heart, jnana dipena basvataha, a little lamp, a glowing lamp of knowledge. It's not knowledge, it's a revelation, it's understanding. So that with that love, God opens up our hearts and we can experience. So you may not be booked smart, but you have love and revelation of God. That makes sense. I had a friend whose father was a very poor farmer in Mexico, totally illiterate, never went to one day of school in his life. And he was telling me his father had so much love for God that when they were out in the fields, he would say, he would walk around and look on the ground, look all around. And he'd ask his dad, what are you looking for? And he's saying, well, this is so beautiful. God created. I wonder if God's footprints are here in the sand somewhere. Now, what? Like I've read all these books. I've put in 35 years of Hare Krishna. I don't have that. I don't think that. I don't have that kind of a heart. But this simple farmer who hasn't even read one book is seeking, looking. As God created this. Is his footprints here somewhere? What a beautiful soul that is. That is true jnana dipena, revelation of God from within the heart because of love. Seeing the beautiful field and thinking, oh, God created this. There's love there. Wow, look at that. And then within the heart, God opens up their eyes. How sweet is that? That's bhakti. And so the opulence of God becomes a hindrance. It's like gets in the way of that. Why would God, who created the whole universe, be walking around in the cornfield?
Well, even just on a basic level, if we're watching the sunrise, we're in awe of the opulence of the sunrise, and we may forget to think, wait, let me look for the artist's signature in this piece of artwork.
Yeah.
We don't go beyond the opulence. It's okay, like the opulence exists. It's okay to acknowledge and be in awe of the opulence, but then behind it is the source, and really to be in wanting to connect with that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice. What else? Rebecca, what's your thoughts?
Yeah,
Take
I had to leave a while back, but you guys were all just saying such good points. I couldn't stop. So I think the reason why I really like the verse 10.10 is because for any beginning bhakta or any beginning person, you know, because we're all beginners, but anyone that's starting on a consistent spiritual practice, it could be very hard, like we were saying, to detach from, you know, material, to even detach in general. And it could get very confusing, and sometimes we don't know what's our path or what to do. It kind of gets a little difficult, and so that verse always is very comforting and reminds me that as long as, you know, I'm really just giving my love and my devotion, Krishna or source or the creator is gonna give me that sight. You know, he's gonna tell me, okay, these are your next steps, this is where you're gonna go. And it comes in very beautiful ways. Like it come from your heart, it could come from someone telling you, you seeing something that you're like, wow, this just clicked. And that's why I really like that verse, because it's just, you give yourself your devotion and your love, and it's kind of, you're all taken care of, you know. It's like that parent that, you know, it's always going to take care of you. And that's why I really love that, because it's just such a nice essence of bhakti yoga, that verse. So
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
okay, I have to go though now, but thank
Okay.
you all, and much love, and thank you for everything. It's always so nice to see y'all. Let me give you guys a nice view of the tree though. Thought you guys would like it. The
Wow.
banyan tree. That's the backyard.
Beautiful.
All right, bye y'all. Love
Bye,
you.
Rebecca.
Bye. Bye. Ashriel, give us your purport to today's discussion.
I'm just kind of taking it all in at the moment. I think that my confusion was with that, if that phrase was specifically pertaining to having a fixed like expectation from pure love or from materialism, or like in seeking that. So I think that that's what I got clarification for that specific. I think it ended in booty, I think.
Satmika Buddhi.
Yeah, but I really appreciate just all of the depth that we talked about today, of coming from a just pure wanting to know and learn and get closer to the heart of God, of Krishna, to know his heart or her heart, I think.
So tell us a little bit about your realization or understanding of Krishna. Because I know that when we first met, one of the things that you were saying, as in your baby crying is not disturbing, it's sweet, is you were, as we all have been, kind of tweaked out with the idea of God, kind of weird and cringy. But now, through many classes and stuff and your study of Bhagavad Gita, what's your current revelation or understanding?
Currently I've been trying to go throughout my life with not so much a sense of awe, but seeing God in all of things, and trying to relate the things that I am familiar with to God, whether it be things, moments, experiences, and just fully, I guess I'm in that phase of discovering God in my life. And I guess remembering more consistently how frequently I forget, and allowing myself to give myself a little bit of grace, like you were saying, Dharma, throughout the process, because I am so early on. And at least I feel like I'm early in the path of being able to use language to the things that I experience. And so now I'm better equipped with language and like little things that where I can actually, you know, I guess figure it out for myself, if that makes sense. Also, I'm a nanny, so
But that's not your baby.
It's not my baby.
Well, it is for the time being.
Yes, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah, so I'm trying, especially with this season, the holiday season, I find myself just feeling so stressed out and, you know, getting caught up in the materialistic world with finding things for family members and, you know, what's going to make this person happy and what's, you know, what can I give to this person? It's a lot of giving that, you know, I would like to redefine what giving is. Eventually, once, you know, over time, but yeah, I'm trying to come back always to, I guess, essentially feelings, and things that are more abstract than like materialistic things.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
How nice. I'm going to say that I don't know. I can't even tell you how many people that I've met over the years, especially when I lived in the temple. I meet people all the time that would come to the temple who are interested in spirituality. And you get to kind of know people by their approach. Means you'll get people who come and they're maybe critical or they're doubtful, or you get people who are thoughtful but they're distant, or just so many kinds of people. And kind of from day one, you have the open-mindedness to understand the bhakti philosophy, which is rare. So I'm giving you some appreciation because you pretty much came and have been coming to classes and taking notes, and you have been focused, and all that stuff shows a good, let's say, devotional heart. So thank you for all of your contributions. It's very nice. It's inspiring to me, and I'm sure to everybody else. Haribol.
Haribol. It's nice to find something that can articulate in the language of things that you've thought and have felt intuitively for a long time. And I know that that's what has kept me close within the Bhakti tradition, although sometimes it totally throws me for a loop. But ultimately, underneath it all, there, at the essence of it, you just said it in talking about the holidays. You want to give somebody a feeling. When we do that through materiality currently in our society, but you want to give, you have this natural heart that wants to give, and you want to do it in a way that aligns with you because you want to do it from a pure place. It's just difficult to do that in the current, you know, situation of the world and the way we've all been conditioned and patterned. So have grace for yourself now and always, not just because you're new. You deserve that grace. I think we have to remember, all of us, to have grace for ourselves. It's a difficult earth walk. So if we don't have any other shares, it's already 3:06. Let's
Okay.
Maybe
I mean,
we'll
there's one more person there, Sophia, but I don't know.
Sophia. Yeah, Sophia, would you like to share anything? Thanks for joining us today. If you want to share, yeah, you can unmute.
Hello, this is my first time coming to this the teachings, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to attending again.
Hi, Bo. And how did you hear about the class?
Through the yoga teacher training.
Oh,
Yeah.
yay.
Yeah, she was in the current group, guys, so she was there for your talk.
Oh, I don't see your picture in it.
Yeah.
So
It's okay. There's a lot of them there too. So
nice, nice.
wonderful. Thanks for joining us today, Sophia.
Thank you.
All right, then we'll close it out with one of the prayers, which is where we started our class with. Did we go through all of the prayers or did
Oh, we didn't. I'm sorry.
It's
I
okay.
was so distracted. I should
There's
keep
not a
on
distraction. There's just so many ways, and like the knowledge just has so many branches to it. And
Yeah.
I actually do like when there's this organicness to like where we end up in the conversation. I trust that it all happened the way it was supposed to. So,
So
yeah,
if you're going to learn these verses, at the very minimum, learn this one. That's to the Guru that we open with. And then we always close with this one. And this is, I offer my obeisances. And obeisances means respects. To all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. That means you, all of you, and all those who engage in bhakti. They can fulfill desires of everyone, just like desire trees. Desire trees give devotion. So it's not like they give all desires, like, I want a new Ferrari, and the devotees say, sure, one appears. But it's part of that love that Krishna wants to fulfill, the love, the desires of the devotees, and the devotees want to give love of God. They're full of compassion for all the fallen conditioned souls. Not nice? Okay, so let's do it together. Let's just do it all together. Vancha kaupa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. And a special thanks for Dharma Shakti for all of her great service. Because of her, we've all met together. We're doing these kirtans, we're doing study. We have a holy place to come to and gather. She is like the Guru Ma of the Sangha. Haribol.
thank you for that. But I could not do it without many of you here. So
Haribol.
many people behind me, but thank you for that.
Okay, Prabhus.
All
Next-
right. Yeah, we'll be back
next
next Thursday, 1:30. And we're still trying to figure out our next date for our satsang. We're very close to pinning that down and getting it on the calendar. But thank you all for being here. And don't forget, you can join us on Tuesdays, myself and Ed, for Bhakti Sadhana around 9:30. If you want to just dive deeper into Bhakti and those things. Otherwise,
Sometimes I tune in on Instagram, but I'm usually working at that time, unfortunately.
that's okay. Yeah, but thank you all for being here. And Max, we totally loved having you in town and being able to visit with you. And I look forward to many more opportunities to do so and to continue to be in service to others with you. All right. All right, Ball. See you all.
Haribol.
Well.